what we did too is back again. I didn't bore you with the painting and everything, but if you look now, and I'm working on my own here, so this is a cabinet now, and it's done in the base colour. Okay, so we're looking this is not Chippendale, okay? It's very basic furniture done with basic tools. And so, as I said, these videos are not really for accomplished carpenters, working carpenters, working joiners and furniture makers. It's not for them. This is about doing what you can with what you've got. And if you haven't got a workshop, then you can work out on your patio. And if you can't do that, then if you haven't got a wife, you can work in the living room or maybe the spare bedroom. But you can do something, and you can actually do something that looks nice. What I have learned is how to get out of trouble, and that's really what we're talking about here. So I'd really like to show you that. So if you look now, how can I do this? I've now got my one hand on the camera. But there we go. See, so this is going to be two end pieces. Okay, and they're all done. Now, I think I showed you how I mix the paint. It's really not hard if you have an idea about what you want it to look like. Now, I've done this before, and I've used this paint. This is white paint. It's white flat coat, and it has a tint, which I've done myself. And there it is. It's called Lamp Black. And of course, the paint always drips on the bit that you need to refer to, doesn't it? Paint is like that. Make no mistake, paint is not friendly stuff. It hates you. It wants to drip in the wrong places. It wants to get on your clothes. It wants to get on your face when you haven't got any thinners to get it off. And you have to go to some important meeting with a blob of paint on your face. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at putting on the trim. So I've left a little bit of trimming up to do. Right now you can see there, look, cuts are not perfect, but we can make that good. We can put a trim on the front here, look. That'll make that nice. And when it's finished, it will look like this. As I say, it's not Chippendale, but when it's installed and it's got a few books on it, and believe me, it's strong. It will not collapse. You just have to have an idea of how to build, and you gain that knowledge simply by looking at the way that furniture is made, as you're doing right now. You're looking at the way that this was built. So this is for books, and this will be for bigger pieces. Probably for, say, the computer tower will go in there, and other things which are tall, maybe storing a tripod. Other stuff that are not only the 12 inches that you would allow for a book. So I like these pedestals, shall we call them. I like them to have a little foot step in. It doesn't detract from the strength of it, but it does have a great deal to do with how the piece looks as you can see there, in my opinion. So now I'm going to get to, I'll put the camera up and it'll record whatever it can. Alright, it's very bright sunlight out here. It's a terrible thing that I have to put up with here. Have to work in this area now like this. It's well, it's just one of those things that you have to put up with in life, isn't it? For me, as I always try and say, this is not paradise. It's not even close for a lot of people. People may not like this. That's a possibility. This morning a man passed through here on a carabao going from, I don't know, his A to his B, and that took him through on the outskirts there, and off he went down there. I managed to catch the rear end of the carabao disappearing over the hill under the mango tree there. The goat is over there. I'm going to be plagued in a minute by dogs driving each other insane. I've had to clear everything here. I really don't want to get paint onto this deck. It's a chore to get off. Right, we've got the fence pretty well made. It needs to have welding done. It needs to have, all the joints have to be tidied up and ground down so that when they're painted it will look nice. You can see some of that work has already been done. This is a little area here where we'll keep any stuff that we use, flotation devices, and this is a little area where we'll have a shower, and it will just drain off down there for the little that it will come. The pool is still not a pool. When is a pool not a pool? When you haven't got a filtration system. That's what. Why would we fill that thing with water and have it look like that? No, we're not going to do that. This will be fairly easy to drain off. We won't have all of that crap go down into the drain, and we will see what we'll see. Our fence is slow in being done because the men can only work on Sundays, and sometimes they can't work on that, so we haven't seen them now for 2 weeks when they finally come this Sunday, if they come. And that's something that we have to put up with because we know these guys work. We've seen some of their work and they've done very nice work when it's all painted up. Really nice, and I know that we'll be pleased. But back to our polishing of the turd. Yes, sorry about that. But sometimes it does describe it. I haven't really paid too much attention to this. It might be wobbly when I put it up. I'll have to take it back down again and make it unwobbly. So let's go and see how we go from here, and we will edit out what we don't need. Okay, how is that looking? Well, I think it will capture me doing what I do, so let's go ahead. So once again we're looking at very simple tools. Just going to make a mark. Funny, when I was working in America, I found that America, which produced such incredible comedy shows as Friends and the Golden Girls, when you actually got out into the street, the sense of humour was not always there. You wouldn't believe it from a nation that guided the sense of humour almost of the world. And I would make a joke. I would make a joke where I would say, oh well, that's the cheaper price. I can, you know, it does get more expensive, you know, and that naturally the American customer would say, why would it be more expensive? They say, well, that's if I use my most recent prescription on my glasses. I don't know. No, they didn't laugh either. So the pussycat has come to join me. As you may know, pussycat only graces your company for a little while, and she won't want to be bothered. So I better not go and fuss over her. All of this will be so quick. With a nail gun. It can become a chore doing it this way. Plus, with a nail gun, it just zips in there and you can adjust. You can adjust how far the nail goes in, and it can go in just below the surface and you don't get these crescent marks. These crescent marks to a carpenter are a mortal sin, because it means you hammered it once too many times. I'll be back. Kitty! Pussycat. This was the only saw that I could find in my tools, because little jobs come up and they need to be done, and to get the job done, Beth will go to the tools with my instructions ringing in her ear of do not lend out my tools, and she will find the tool that's needed and she'll lend it out. More fun in the Philippines. Because somehow, I don't think it's a deliberate thing, but somehow the tools never come back. They just never come back. I think I've told the story of Nanai. What do you think? What do you think Nanai would have to do with a hammer? But she does, and she will need a hammer. Now for a while, what used to happen would be that my hammer would disappear. And then I would go to Beth and say, Beth, where is my hammer? And she would go to Nanai, and Nanai would produce my hammer. So, thinking like a foreigner, I went to the store. Oops. I went to the store and I did what? I bought Nanai her own hammer. And then I presented it to her and said, now, Nanai, you don't need to borrow my hammer. Fast forward to when I next needed my hammer. It's not there. Beth, where is my hammer? She goes to Nanai. Nanai, where is Terence's hammer? So I go and I go to Nanai and I get my hammer. And I say, Nanai, why are you borrowing my hammer? What happened to your hammer? And she says, somebody borrowed it. So, it's a never-ending story. Now we're getting close on this now, and I'll be able to show you a little about mixing Bondo and filling some of the worst gaps. So you notice that everything doesn't go perfectly. And here's something else. Once you're doing something to an audience, the tools and the materials will do what they want, and they work against you, they hate you. It's an enemy situation. Paint will fall where it's not supposed to. You'll get splinters in your hand because the nail keeps bending. I watched a program, a popular program, which was one of those soap operas, came on every night, unrelenting, brain damage quality television. And after a while you found yourself watching it while you were eating or something like that, the worst possible combination. And I watched a particular one. It was about a farm situation, and the farmer, the poor actor who was supposed to be working as I'm working now in the scene, he's supposed to be putting up a fence, and he was hammering a nail in. And believe me, it was probably a 3 or 4 inch nail, and it hated him. The more he hit it, the more he bent the thing. He could not get that nail to be driven in. It was impossible. I felt so bad for the guy. At the time I judged him. I said, oh my God, look at that, he can't drive a nail in. And really I should have been kinder, because there was a man, a comedian that I've mentioned before, called Al Reed. And Al Reed used to do sketches based on the know-it-all, that everybody has experience of a know-it-all, and a know-it-all that comes along at the worst possible time when you're trying to do something, and would be so domineering and self-righteous and all-knowing, and he would be insufferable, and he would say things, you're never going to try and do that with that hammer, are you? Where's your panel beating hammer, for God's sake? Oh my God, what an amateur. And he would do all of that. And of course when he did, it was very funny. So right now, we've gotten to a point where I can start polishing the turd. And that is the, see, this is one of the things about the plywood that we get here, is that the wood, of course, is the same, probably the same quality as you would get in America or any of the Western countries. But for some reason, the glue that they bond all of this together with just gives out. On cue, the dogs. And one of the dogs is being killed, probably. That's life as a dog in the Philippines up here anyway. So right now we're going to go ahead and I'll show a little of mixing for those who don't know. It's hard for me to believe that anybody out there doesn't know how to mix Bondo, but it is a fact. So here's the Bondo. We'll put it down a little bit lower. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of this, but you can have a look at some. If you have a look, I'll take the camera off and show you a close-up of this, and then a close-up later of how I managed to move it on. So now there are plenty of gaps, because nothing is straight edge, nothing has gone through a table saw. I'm being totally open about this and showing you that it is a turd. It's not Chippendale. I hate to keep using the name Chippendale in relation to these things, even if it's saying that I don't compare it, but it is a fact. But we can make this acceptable. And for a lot of people who are perhaps working with even better tools than I have, may be able to go on and using the encouragement of seeing me blundering around doing this non-Chippendale furniture, you may actually benefit from it. Don't give up. Okay. Now I should have showed you. Let me get that out of the way. I should have showed you that you should always clean off your little mixing tool. I did clean off my spatula. It used to be quite a fancy one. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Now I did say that this was carpentry for idiots, so I will assume that you don't know about this. But this is, in America we would call this Bondo, in England we'd call it Bondo, here it's Easy Tight, okay? But it's the same thing. You can tell it's the same thing because it sticks the same. Now what you have to be realistic about here is how fast can you work, because that seems a very small amount, but it actually will go off very fast, especially in this weather. Now, this is the hardener. Now I know that that only looks like a very, very tiny bit, but it's a lot. And what you do is you mix this in and you get the white to blend in with the red, and when it's a uniform colour it's ready to work. And you've got to try to be fast because it will go off and it's not free. See what I mean about tools? I hate you. I'm covering my sins. Now, apart from wanting to be sparing about this, the more you put on, the more you will have to take off. So, don't be silly. Okay, now, we're fairly good on that. Not too much work to do when we take it off. And we managed to do it before it went off. So, cleaned it up again. And this as well. It's a good idea not to put this spatula with the not quite yet cured Bondo back into the pot, because it will affect the workability. So about the same again. Seems like this is a pretty good amount for this temperature, for this situation. Once again, a tiny bit. Now what most people make a mistake on this is that they put too much of the hardener in with the actual Bondo itself. The hardener is not the strength. even quite experienced, skilled people have told me, "Ah, yes, I make sure that the Bondo that I use is very strong. I use twice as much hardener." It doesn't work like that. It's not dependent on how much, the strength is not dependent on how much hardener there is. There's an ideal amount of hardener, enough to do the job, and that's what you should put on. And if you put any more than that on, you're just wasting money. But even then, what I find is a good idea is to buy a spare tube of hardener, because no matter how you try, you usually end up putting too much on. Too much hardener, that is. Now if you hit a little difficult spot where you can't seem to get it level or right, don't waste time on it. Do what you can do quickly and leave well alone. Well, I will leave it for that for Bondo. I'll get the rest of it Bondoed up and then we'll paint like we painted there.